We invite you to historic Flagler County, Florida. We are the first county that has received an historic highway designation from the state of Florida. Wouldn't it be wonderful to explore that time and those places again? The real Florida is waiting for you to rediscover it. Heritage Crossroads, miles of history invite you to travel the byways of a part of Florida where the agriculture, historic, scenic, and recreational resources that brought the first explorers and settlers here continue to attract visitors and new residents alike. There are 92 miles of history for you to explore. No, you don't have to drive all 92 miles at one time. We have a map showing the highways and byways broken down into 4 loops. Just at the St. Johns Flagler County line, one can visit Cherokee Grove, now known as Princess Place, an historical site with the oldest standing home site in Flagler County. Cherokee Grove was part of the Francisco Pellissier Grant and was later purchased by Henry Cutting, a wealthy New England sportsman. In the latter half of the 1800s, a number of orange groves were planted in the area, just west of Matanzas Bay. Sometimes after purchasing the property in 1886, Cutting built a large hunting lodge facing the bay and brought his new bride Angela to reside there for the winter. About 9 years after his death in 1892, Angela married John Lorimer Warden. Sometime after their divorce, she married an exiled Russian prince named Boris Sherbatow, so the estate later became known as Princess Place. This historic site is just one of several locations in Flagler County listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Next to Princess Place on Old Kings Road, just off US 1, is the Florida Agricultural Museum, dedicated to preserving and interpreting Florida's agricultural past. This 300-acre outdoor living history educational park includes Native American settlements, Spanish-era missions of the 1600s, British plantations, open-range cracker ranching of the 1800s, and more modern agriculture farming displays. Old buildings from an early Florida farm and an 1890s homestead have been disassembled, brought to the site, and reassembled, where they are now available for your exploration. Florida cracker horses, cattle, and hogs are there along with other animals for you to interact with. A museum is also on site, which includes an historic display of black cowboys. You will learn where the term cowboy actually originated. No matter which part of Flagler County you find yourself in, the rich traditions of the pioneer will come through. This gives one the feel for rural Flagler County as it was during a quieter, simpler time. The old brick road was originally built to give early visitors to Florida a route from Michigan to Miami. It was a portion of the Dixie Highway and completed in 1917. A part of this old road still exists for you to see. The Dixie Highway, Hastings, Espanola, and Bunnell, also known as the Old Brick Road, was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in 2005. Explore along an old Indian footpath known as Spring Garden Trail, now known as Espanola. This sleepy settlement became a boom town in the 1880s with the arrival of the railroad. Espanola Cemetery is a beautifully wooded, restful cemetery. Alvin Moody's stone is one of the earliest stones dating back to just after the 1900s. A number of the founding fathers of what became Flagler County are resting there. A leisurely walk through the cemetery will tell the story of many of the families. The State Road 11 spur will provide a wonderful Florida country drive to Cody's Corner, a local landmark. To longtime residents, this area is and has been Haw Creek for nearly a century. The name comes from a small apple-like tree which grew along the banks of the creek and bore a fruit called mayhaw. Next is Bunnell, the county seat. This was originally Bunnell Stop, which was a cypress shingle mill established in the 1880s by Alva Bunnell to supply the fledgling regional rail business with wood for their wood-burning locomotives. The city of Bunnell was officially incorporated as a town on June 2, 1911, by a special act of incorporation. However, the act contained a faulty description of boundary lines, and the place did not function as a town until 2 years later, when a special law was passed granting them a charter making Bunnell a legal entity in 1913. The Heritage Crossroads Group has established a walking tour with a brochure to guide you through this interesting historic community. Early 1920s architecture is apparent in many of the lovely homes along Moody Boulevard, including the Holden House Museum. Mr. Holden was a pharmacist in Bunnell for over 50 years, and we feel sure that he would be very pleased and perhaps surprised that his home is now a local museum. The Bunnell State Bank Building, also known as Citizens Bank of Bunnell, was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in 1992. The Little Red Schoolhouse, still in the schoolyard in Bunnell, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2007. The old courthouse building will be saved by the county, and future plans are being formulated for the historic building's use. The Bunnell City Hall is an excellent example of a coquina building unique to Florida and was built in the 1930s by the WPA program. The original structure of St. Mary's Catholic Church in Corona still stands near an expanded church facility. A shrine to St. Christopher, patron saint of travelers, stands next to the church. This church was founded in 1914 by Polish immigrants who were seeking a fresh start free of ice and snow. They focused on strong family traditions, God, honor, and country. For centuries, Indian trails, shell paths, brick roadways, and two-lane highways carried the people and stories of Northeast Florida. Indian chiefs camped along the trails beside sweetwater streams and cut through forests of live oak, cypress, hickory, and cedar. Spanish land grants brought opportunity to wealthy entrepreneurs and poor homesteaders alike. Cattle and horses were brought to the New World, and ranching became a way of life. Vast plantations and hardscrabble farms were cleared. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, there were a number of sugar plantations on the east coast of Florida. The largest of these was originally named Good Retreat, later to become known by the more recognized name of Bulowville. In 1812, the plantation was purchased by James Russell, who exchanged his schooner with the Spanish governor for a 5,000-acre grant on what was later to be known as Bulow Creek. When Mr. Russell died 3 years later, his heir sold the property to Colonel Charles Wilhelm Bulow. Mr. Bulow died at age 48 before the plantation of Bulowville was fully developed. His only son, John Joachim Bulow, who was 17 years old at the time, came to Florida from school in Paris to manage the plantation. In spite of his age, the plantation did very well under his management, and the acreage increased to about 6,000 acres. With the help of around 300 slaves, over 2,000 acres were cleared. You can walk the path by the location of their homes and view the outline of the Bulow home by Bulow Creek. After this trip, you may take the Flagler Beach Spur and experience a wonderful small Florida town originally called Ocean City along the Atlantic Ocean. A super museum that lets you discover from the prehistoric age to the space age is just one of the stops along your way. Just south of Flagler Beach on A1A is the Gamble Rogers State Park. It offers camping on the ocean and fishing and boating on the Intracoastal Waterway. If you continue south to High Bridge, you can wind around the Loop to Walter Boardman Drive to Old Dixie Highway. Going north on A1A, one finds an archaeological treasure at Bing's Landing. This was the location of Malacompra, one of the 3 plantations owned by General Joseph Hernandez, who was of Minorcan descent. He raised indigo and sugarcane. Malacompra bordered the Matanzas River, and today a park is at the site of his former home, where boaters and fishermen put their boats to enjoy the beauty of the old Florida ambiance. Continuing north on A1A, you will find Washington Oaks Gardens, another state park, once a plantation belonging to General Hernandez and currently a must-see. Extending from the Atlantic Ocean to the Matanzas River, Washington Oaks Gardens State Park preserves 425 acres of Florida's original coastal scenery. A National Register listing has been applied for. Marineland is on the Flagler-St. Johns County line, where Marine Studios was the first movie studio in the United States to film underwater movies. Esther Williams was filmed there. This facility was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1986 and is also an historic district. Today, you can visit with the resident dolphins and enjoy a wonderful experience. Florida Heritage markers are located at the Holden House in Bunnell, Malacompra, Princess Place, and Washington Oaks Gardens State Park. So welcome to Flagler County. Come and enjoy and be prepared to learn about Old Florida.